Right. Good morning, everyone. This is Chris Koropati from Cambrian Lab. In today's session, we're going to cover the topic of quality is everyone's responsibility in terms of our mission. And as you can see that we have adopted quality is everyone's responsibility, the famous saying from Deming. And our mission is to make it a reality in the organization and the supply chain. As far as the agenda is concerned, we'll introduce our company and the panelists that are joined today. My colleague Manish Mathur is also joining me as a co-panelist. We will cover some of the challenges from a cross-functional quality management perspective, within the organization and the supply chain, and how we overcome some of the challenges using a workflow-based approach for cross-functional management, quality management. We will show a demo of some of the scenarios, and the last 15 minutes or so, we'll open it up for Q&A. In terms of Q&A, if you notice, we're going to answer all the questions towards the end of the session. However, it is very likely that you will have some questions as we are covering various topics. So to make it a little bit more efficient, what you can do is to type in your question in the Q&A tab. If you look at your Zoom bar, the fourth tab is Q&A. You can actually type in there and we will monitor all the questions and make sure that we answer the questions towards the end of the session as thoroughly as possible. If you're not able to, we will definitely try to answer it via email, or you can always schedule a one-on-one session with us. With that, a little bit of an introduction. We are a California-based company, but with certain people in offices in the cities where we have a number of our customers that operate. We do come with a lot of operational experience as well as technology that supports core operations in new product introduction, supplier development and quality management. And in a lot of what you will see today, our approach to quality management is informed by our fairly deep expertise in new product introduction and related supply chain development, because that's a perspective that you have to bring for cross-functional quality management. Today, we are going to showcase our solution, the workflow management solution that is used for supply chain oriented processes. A little bit about I and Manish. We come with 20 plus industry experience, both split between operational roles at some of the companies in high tech and automotive, as well as technology expertise in from companies like SAP and others. So we have both sides of the perspective in terms of how to effectively support day-to-day work of operations teams. If you have to really look at what are some of the challenges from a quality management perspective, and the line says everyone's should be responsible for quality. Quality is job number one. That was Ford's tagline for a long time. However, it is not easy to make that a reality. And the reason being, most quality workflows tend to be poorly supported, and there is also a tendency within the organizations that quality is the responsibility of quality department, not necessarily everyone. That makes it a little bit of a challenging, both from a process perspective as well as a mindset perspective. And obviously the consequences are not that great if quality thinking is not very widely adopted across all functions within the organization. And there tends to be, because there are, whether we like it or not, in spite of a lot of work that people have been put in to break down the barriers, there tends to be these silos. Each department tends to focus on its own work and the focus, what they should be doing. And as a result, quality pretty much resides here. A lot of improvement aspects, as well as how to make it a reality across all these functions, right? So that tends to be the issue. And another big challenge that a lot of organizations face is, quality events. When interestingly can come from many, many sources. If you really categorize them as customer, quality, design, manufacturing, supply, right? A lot of the initial quality events where something wrong happened tends to be spread across all of these different types of business processes or what people do, right? And you need to, and the other challenge that is these quality events are in different systems, like CRM systems has customer complaints and issues that customers are facing. E-commerce can have customer reviews, bad customer reviews, right? Inspection systems can have non-conformances. LIMS can have test results that have failed. All of these are in fact leading to certain types of quality issues which need to be addressed and dealt with and improved in most cases, right? So if you look at this, where there are many, many sources, each of them are in different departments, right? This is in customer service and marketing. This is a lot of it is in design, manufacturing and suppliers. There is no coherent approach that is possible, right? To make all of these different departments think in terms of quality. And the challenge of integrating with different systems also makes it very hard. So that's one of the reasons why we've come up with what we think is one approach. We're not saying that this is the best, but definitely it has worked for us in a lot of supply chain and NPI related scenarios where, how do you set up cross-functional quality management workflows that can involve anyone and any system in the workflow. It can also integrate easily with all of the source systems where quality events are captured many times. You can also, you'd also want to integrate certain quality tools and techniques as part of those workflows, so it becomes natural to do quality improvement and corrective actions, etc. And importantly, it also involves the supply chain as and when needed. So there are a number of things that, based on our experience working in NPI and supplier development, that also seem relevant for cross-functional quality management. And that's what we brought together, and we'd like to share it today. So these are some of the both workflows and assessments that we've kind of designed using the workflow engine. However, it doesn't stop you. These are not the end all. You can design your own. We'll show some examples today. And more often than not, you'd want to design your quality workflows to fit your quality manual that you may today have, or various standard operating procedures that you've designed. You just design your workflows to all support what you already are doing in many cases and what you would like to improve. So again, our goal is to make quality visible and integral to a lot of what people do across these departments. So a few things that we will show you today are, how you can actually set up and design the workflows that are needed for quality management, how the cross-functional teams come together, and the other thing that we will cover today a little bit at length is also how to integrate suppliers and even customers into these different workflows easily. It's always possible to do them. It hasn't been very easy. And it's been pretty hard based upon some of the current approaches that people have taken. But, you need to be able to involve suppliers as and when needed in any workflow that it is relevant for them. And one of the things that it is possible now is to also, as you're implementing or using these workflows to be able to use certain techniques that are used across the board in quality management, right? They should be embedded within the workflows and and people ought to be able to use them very naturally. And then obviously, we'll show how some of the visibility actually helps in terms of speeding up the workflows, as well as compliance and other related aspects that are pretty important. So towards the end, we'll show how the workflow engine actually integrates with a lot of the relevant systems, so that it's not something that you have to think separately, because this is a major obstacle that we have observed for a lot of quality management teams to realize improvements and adoption. So with that, what I'll show you start is with a demo. So the demo is split into multiple sections. We're going to start with certain quality events and how you can use those quality events to start and finish certain connected quality workflows. We'll look at that. As part of that, we will also see how, if, for example, you already have a standard operating procedure for to do certain things, you can customize and integrate tools, quality assessments and tools directly into these specific workflows. You can essentially design to what you've already documented. We'll look at how suppliers are involved in this case. You can use a similar methodology for involving customers where needed, and certain status and visibility that you can get while these workflows are running. And towards the end, we'll show how, and this is very important for a lot of our customers, is because they need to be able to design workflows that fit their current processes. For example, in life sciences and pharma, it's not that straightforward to go ahead and change processes, right? They have already documented certain things, and you need to align with what is already documented. So you can do that with your workflow design techniques. And towards the end, we'll look at how integration happens naturally. We'll leave plenty of time for Q&A. But as I'm showing you the scenarios, please feel free to type in the questions and we'll answer the questions towards the end. Okay. So with that, what I will show you here is the solution in the browser. You will see that there are a lot of different workflows. There's a launchpad here with a number of cross-functional quality workflows, certain continuous improvement techniques. And we've also set up certain examples for how certain quality, customer quality or design quality events may be captured and used to drive, connected quality workflows. As a part of that, you can be using various techniques as well as data sets, right? Whether if you're dealing with parts, you need to be able to deal with parts. And there's quite a bit of section on supplier quality here, and we'll spend some time there. So I'm going to use this example, and recently purchased an air fryer on Amazon. And what we're going to do is, this is not uncommon. It can happen for medical devices to, returns for even, specific large industrial customers and so on. So these can happen from anywhere. In this example, we're going to start with, this one-star review. These are very problematic if you, if you are actually selling in e-commerce channels, or generally, your customers are doing a lot of research, and they always read reviews before they make purchasing decisions. And there is a problem here, right? There's a one-star review, which is something that you need to monitor. We'll show you how you can actually integrate with Amazon and other online customer review sources to get these types of reviews into, as a starting point for your quality improvement processes. So this is trash. They have some problem. Basket design is just awful. These are notes that they're making. So we've actually gone ahead and integrated with Amazon. So we have an external system to go and integrate with Amazon Review. It actually goes and gets the customer reviews. Okay, so I want to take that example here, this customer review. And what it is it's the same thing that, there are certain data that we have. Product ASIN is the Amazon indicators, IDs, and the review is 1 star. It's a verified purchase, and we know what the review is. Trash, the design is awful, cannot deattach, and it is too close to the air vents, so causing a lot of real trouble for the end customer. And if you notice, we actually have a workflow here that is designed. If you look at it, we do evaluate the customer review, quality issue assessment, and if needed, we are actually going to go ahead and create a quality issue here. And the people that are involved here are actually brand manager and quality engineer. So we have defined certain roles, including marketing, product management, quality leads, right? So if you actually go to product managers and others, they'll create a report and they'll send it to, hopefully, in an expeditious manner, to the quality department to do something about it, right? It's just the silos exist today. We are with this approach for cross-functional teams and the workflow that is driven out of this quality poor customer review. It is proactively being addressed. Right, the poor review, once we integrate with Amazon, kicks off this workflow, gets all of the data, and actually, as part of the assessment, right? If you look at this assessment, quality issue assessment, the team will give, hey, what is the severity rating? What is the occurrence? I mean, it doesn't happen that often. If you notice, there are only a few bad reviews compared to all the other 5-star reviews, right? 3%. But one-star reviews are in general pretty bad because they influence customer perception and purchasing intent. You can have hundreds of 3, 4, 5 this thing. It doesn't. It's a good thing to have those, but any number of 1-star reviews can result in pretty bad customer perception, and purchasing intent falls dramatically. So this is something that you need to really address immediately. So the team has decided, hey, we need to raise a quality issue. Okay, and if you notice this workflow, it actually creates a quality issue, and the way to do that is, we actually have something called a sub-process, sub-workflow. So the poor customer review workflow itself, which is cross-functional by itself, because multiple teams are looking at it now, also leads to creating a quality issue from poor customer review. So that's already there here. It's created. And what it is done is, because these are quality issue is a very central process that this company has designed, so it can actually catch, like what we have shown here, everything from poor quality, field failure, all of these feed into this quality issue workflow. So there's air fryer is trash, so here, this workflow has its own cross-functional team. So this actually includes design engineer, because R&D needs to also be part of that. There's a quality board that routinely meets and reviews all of these quality issues. And the workflow, if you look at it, it has assessment, certain root cause analysis. They determine what the follow-on actions are. And then, once the actions are finished, make sure that the actions are completed, and there's a review. So this is how, it's not uncommon to have companies design these types of SOPs for certain quality issues, right? So that team here now actually went ahead and determined, hey, the root cause of this is product design. They've done a little bit of fishboning here, a fishbone as a technique to find out, hey, the basket cannot be detached. It's a product issue. Air vents are too close to the bottom. These are the two things that were root causes for this poor customer review, right? A customer experience. And the recommendation is, do a design change, review options, change the design as soon as possible. Right? So that's the recommendation. So now, if you look at it from a workflow perspective, you have an action, follow-on action to be done. Now, we don't stop here, right? We go to move on to this, say, what is the corrective action? And the corrective action that they've designed, and this as its own workflow, as now you get the point that each of these things are different workflows that are spawning others. So nothing gets lost, and there are no handoff coordination issues that are happening with different teams and departments. So they've defined a countermeasure, which is to, the prevention score of this design change would be pretty high, because once they make the design change, this should go away. And, responsible team would be the design engineer, and the verification is to, make sure that the ECOs are completed, and, testing and everything is done properly, right? So, okay, so this is the corrective action. They've gone ahead and actually even created this engineering change request. And this is a lot more comprehensive. So as you can see, what we started off if you go back to our quality issue and all the way to our poor customer review, everything started here. The system went and got poor customer reviews. We've kind of filtered it to 1 and 2 star ratings. The rest of them are good, right? Those are not something that are relevant from a quality issue perspective, so we leave them alone. But 1 and 2 we get, and start with these customer reviews to kick off a whole quality issue assessment to corrective action and corrective action implementation workflow. So if you look at what had happened, the team has actually done from started here and ended up, it kind of closed out. Started here and ended up actually implementing an engineering change request. So this is how you can, connect all of these different workflows, design these as you see fit, maybe based upon your existing standard operating procedures, and close the issue. So similarly, if you notice, we have a lot of different quality events and what they can lead to. Like, for example, in this case, the return material authorization is a defective product that, we actually captured from, this is a phone, a defective product that we captured from an RMA database. And this actually led to actual failure analysis was done on this one because it's a defective, and then corrective action implementation, and again in another ECR, right? So these are the types of quality events that can actually spawn and go through the organization and to the supply chain, and make sure those are closed out in a very cross-functional and expeditious manner. So the next thing I wanted to actually showcase is, a lot of times people have, as part of their workflows, they do want to embed certain techniques and, quality tools, right? For example, Fishbone and 5 all of that. And also support, what you would consider to be a process that is already in place in your organization. Not supported properly, but using workflow, you can do that. So in this case, we have actually a corrective action report that is designed per the spec that the customer, the SOP states. how you should go about doing it. So if you look at this workflow, it has a fairly elaborate approach, right? They need to do, hey, looking at the initial corrective action, is this something that you need to assign to a supplier? If it is, yes, hand it over to a supplier, and they need to follow these different steps. So this is what is documented in their QMS manual, right? So, and you need to support this as it is, right? You don't want to change. People have already designed certain forms and how we should do it. As part of that, they need to do a fishbone diagram. For example, here in this case, they have 6 cause categories, and then what the root causes are, and then there is also things such as 5 why that they need to support as part of this approach, and they also need to do certain countermeasure implementations with with scoring and overall approach that they need to take, right? So as you can see, this workflow system can be used to very, very quickly design these types of existing standard operating procedures that you may already have in the books. The advantage here is by designing this, you don't have to adjust your SOPs and manuals and get approvals and validated and so on again, right? So this is makes it a lot easier for companies to just improve existing QMS policies and documented procedures using this, designing these workflows and embedding all the tools within the workflow setup. So now I'm going to cover how you could actually involve suppliers as part of this, these quality management scenarios and workflows that you may have. A lot of our customers have pretty extensive supply chains, so as a result, they tend to keep them, involved very closely throughout the life cycle. So you will see that we have lots of tools for supplier development. Part of that supplier development, quite a bit of that work happens in the realm of quality management. So it is quite possible that you are doing audits. So for example, here we have a lot of suppliers here that are working with. We also keep track of their maturity levels and relationship status and so on. So in this example, I'm going to show Intel. Intel has a couple of, several users that are in the system right now. So when Intel logs in, for example, to the left is a browser where Intel is actually users are logging in. So if you look at Intel users right now, Chris is the only person that is here. But if you look at the supplier launchpad, what we have done is, we've allowed Intel to participate very easily in any of the workflows that we have actually designed here. Okay, and the way you do that is to actually, as part of supplier profiles, maintain their users and keep track of which workflows they can actually participate and what they can actually do as part of the workflows. So here in this example, for example, we've started a supplier audit, right? This is a standard process where we want suppliers to, come in and answer several questions. This can be initial audits or continuing audits that you may have. So the suppliers, you'd want suppliers to, participate at the particular step. For example, if we look at our audit here, so this is a workflow that we have set up where, we set up the audit. You can use some existing templates for audits, or you can design your own as you see fit. It's quite normal, when you're doing layered process audits or product and process specific audits, that you customize the audit a little bit more. So you can do that using the specific questionnaires, etc. But what we have done is within the workflow, we said, hey, we're going to invite the supplier, and supplier will respond to this audit questions that we were asked. So in that case, suppliers actually get notified saying, hey, you need to go ahead and fill this, and it shows up automatically as part of their activities, whether it is supplier audit for response or supplier performance scorecards where they need to maybe acknowledge certain things. So here in this case, the audit shows up on the supplier's launch pads, and they can actually go ahead and open it and answer the questions, right? So these are places where you are easily, all you have to do is they get automatically selected in the case where you select the supplier, because we keep track of all of most of your sourcing suppliers, especially on production oriented parts and production services that they may be providing, especially contract manufacturing, etc. So you can go ahead and they'll respond, and once the responses are finished, based upon their answers, you may have some certain follow-up actions. So in this case, there is actually an audit finding found some issues. So there was a corrective action issued as part of that audit. Right. So here it's an audit finding. There is no supplier, sub-supplier management, strategic program management. So there was a job was given, and the supplier needs to finish it. Now, if you notice, this workflow also has a supplier representative role, and we've selected Intel, right? This actually is Intel that is doing it. So we've already designed. So added Intel as the actor, supplier actor as part of this workflow, the supplier corrective action. So when Intel logs in, they'll automatically see, hey, there is a corrective action that is there. In this case, they've finished their activity. So everything is done. So they've actually closed out this supplier corrective action is closed out as part of the workflow is concerned. So you can, as you can see, it's very, very easy to, bring in suppliers as part of these different workflows. Same applies for customers as well, right? So you could theoretically look at any of these workflows and say, hey, we need to bring suppliers or customers into these workflows. So that's it's same way you manage suppliers, you can also involve customers into these different workflows. Pretty common for some of our ECO engineering changes and failure resolution to communicate those to customers, either via email or allow them to log into these different workflows in this case. So we have covered 3 of these scenarios. One of the things that I do want to cover here is, as these workflows are happening, so we do actually keep track of all of the actions that are happening here, right? In addition, you also can get the timelines of individual workflows. So for example, in the case of RMA here, we evaluation, failure report, and then all of the activities that had happened as part of these different workflows. So you actually have complete visibility and status of how these workflows are progressing, including timings, etc. But not only that, once you actually have enough, I would say, volume of these workflows going, we can actually keep track of all of the different cycle times, right? So in this case, quality issue, we know we haven't closed any of these quality issues because it's a demo system. Now on the amount of cycle time that it's taking, but not only that, we also keep track of, hey, where is the bottleneck activity here. What activity is taking what level of time frame from a finishing a perspective. These are very, very useful so that you can actually focus your efforts if you are trying to reduce cycle times to what the to manageable number, right? So those metrics are very useful. That visibility is also very, very useful from a compliance perspective as well as auditability perspective. Hey, have we finished everything that we've started out? And when was it done? Who was doing it? And who has done it? So that's how we provide, because it's a workflow-based system, everything is pretty much tracked and traced to make it very, very easy for people to understand, both from a real time what is going on to historically what has happened. So the final thing that I'd want to showcase here is all of these workflows are designed as templates that you can use to initiate. Either people can initiate using this launchpad, and the launchpad can be set up so that appropriate users only can participate or initiate new workflows. That is one way to do it. The other way is even external systems can initiate these workflows. For example, the API to Amazon Reviews actually creates these customer review assessment workflows. So you can expose, if you notice like medical devices or connected medical devices or other systems, there is a lot of real-time failure codes and others that come. You can use that data to actually start any of these different workflows from a programmatically. So both approaches are possible. But most importantly, we actually give you an approach, quite a bit of power, really flexibility and capability, so that you can actually design the workflows the way they should be, based upon your existing SOPs or or new ways that you'd want to do these workflow designs. It's very, very easy to set up. It actually allows, pretty much your regular business analyst to design these different types of workflows. So you can also have quite a bit of configuration possibility to design these activities that the way they should be supported, right? Whether in terms of who should do it, do all of the people need to do it or not, how this should transition, what happens if people don't complete it on time. Things like that can be really be defined, without having to go through a lot of difficulty or any coding or needed. So in most cases, the workflows are owned and designed and maintained by business teams that are responsible for these types of processes. So we give, there's a concept of process admin who actually owns and keeps this, intact and make changes as and when needed. Very, very easy to do that. Finally, in terms of one of the things that is key to cross-functional qualities are you need to be able to integrate very, very easily with external systems. For us, the most common tools that we integrate are like SAP, the Oracles, but also product engineering and MES systems. So in this case, if you look at SAP or you'll see Salesforce, because there's a lot of field customer-focused, customer-facing information, quality events in Salesforce, and especially on the Service Cloud. As of course, SAP has a lot of the sourcing related supplier, all of that is there. And because we support quite a bit of design quality related areas, we also integrate with different design and engineering systems like Agile and Team Center, etc. So once you've connect. This is something that we take responsibility. We maintain all of these integrations so that you don't have to do anything with respect to, hey, if we want to work with this, what do we need to do? Nothing. Once you set up this integration, you also can activate, hey, which of those functions make sense for us, right? For example, in this case, we are saying, get RMAs from SAP, right? Because that's a start of a quality event that we can use to say, hey, do we need to, is this a quality issue? Do we need to something about it? So similarly, there's a lot of other techniques that you can use from Salesforce to SAP and Oracle, where you just call, and based upon what is the information in the workflow and what the source system expects, whether we are reading from it or we are actually creating certain data into the source systems. You can do both of those with the integration capabilities that we provide. So it's fairly manageable. We are trying to make it as easy as possible from an adoption perspective. Otherwise, we've noticed that integration can be a showstopper in many cases, right? If you don't do it, and you don't do it easily and well. So our goal is to make it very, very simple and straightforward. And you can pretty much use those integration activities, that's what we call them, as part of these workflows. So there's one example that I always show is, hey, if we actually, there's a new supplier workflow here, where if you notice, there are a lot of manual people steps. They're doing some risk assessments, certain stakeholders within the organization, approved suppliers. And after that, we need to create a vendor in SAP, right? So this happens here naturally as part of this workflow. So we just call, okay, create a vendor in SAP, and it pretty much uses all of the workflow information where they put the supplier data and uses that to create a vendor in SAP. So that's one of the very powerful concepts that has been very useful for the customers, to not having to think about integration as something different that they need to worry about. It just happens naturally. So with that, what I will do is open it up for Q&A. I think there are some questions here. I think it's all in the chat. So there's a question on, how easy it is to generate these custom, if we already have an existing SOP with its own forms and the process workflow that we need to support as far as existing SOP, how do we do it? So the objects that are needed, for example, if I was to take the example of the custom corrective action request. It is very, very easy for business analysts to design, hey, what are the different attributes and objects that we need to use as part of this standard operating procedure. They'll design that, and it will be available as a form immediately, right? So you can see that, hey, I've designed it, defined it, it's there, and you pretty much use that object, and it can be a very fairly complicated object. That's how we do a lot of assessments and intricate, workflow objects. Once you've designed that, it can take a few minutes to maybe a couple of hours. You start to use that as part of the workflow definition. So here, we said, hey, I'm going to use the custom corrective action, which has fishbone diagrams and 5 whys and countermeasures. That's it. And then, we go ahead and define the roles. If you want to, you can define who should be playing which role ahead of time, or you may decide, hey, I don't want to. I'll decide it when I create a corrective action. And then, you go ahead and define how it is done, right? The workflows. So these types of things can be done in just a matter of hours, if you can imagine, right? A lot of times we've seen this up and running certain parts of it just in a couple of days, and people start to use it, and then they make changes as they continue to use it. That's another thing that is very, very important, is you can continually improve these workflows as you find opportunities to, as people give feedback. Nothing, right? In a matter of minutes, you can make changes, and the changes are available immediately as in when the workflows are, released. Okay, the changes are released here. There was another question on, do you handle documents, etc.? Yes. So as a matter of fact, if you look at this, any of these workflows, there is a way to keep track of all of the documents that may be related to the workflow, right? So if you look at this one, I could actually go ahead and attach a document. So we have this air fryer. There it is, right? So it is there. In addition to that, we also provide a full-fledged repository, which is specific to each of these different workflow instances. For example, we have this poor customer review. There may be a lot of files that you want to include as part of this thing. So you could include any and all data. Because we also support parts and other data, you will see a few more things, and you can also use that capability to support different types of fairly rich information. So a good example here is parts, especially if you have production parts. It is very common to use that information from a quality purpose perspective. So here is a part definition that is there. All the suppliers that are for different parts. So because we do integrate with a number of the engineering and other source ERP systems, typically we have the full information of what is happening with respect to a product or a supplier. Okay, let me see if there are any other questions. There's another question on integration. If we have custom systems, how is the integration supported? So if you notice, we do have, generally a lot of the systems that people use, like the large ones like SAPs and the Oracles and the engineering systems. However, we also support, custom systems using REST APIs or any web services, or even if they have Microsoft SQL Server or MySQL or Oracle databases, and that house a lot of the quality information. You can also directly connect to that and get very, very specific information relevant from a quality management perspective. So there's a full library of adapters that you can use to pretty much connect even custom systems. Most custom systems, if they do not have proper application interfaces, programming interfaces, you probably can reach out to the databases and get specific pieces of information. It's pretty possible, and few of our customers actually do use it at the database connection level. Okay, let me see other questions. There's also another question on, who owns these workflow design? Is it IT or business? In terms of, there are parts of this application that are obviously IT can be and should be responsible, especially when it comes to integrations and how this workflow engine should interoperate with other systems. But as far as workflow design perspective, we consider this to be completely the realm of quality management teams. For example, something like this is actually set up by the quality management team as opposed to you having to go to your IT team. And as part of our whether it's test drive or training, we provide the how to design these workflows and how to design the workflow objects that you may be interested in using. So it's pretty straightforward to do that. And with a little bit of training, you will be up and running and designing these workflows in no time at all. But a lot of these are in the realm of, in our opinion, the quality management, either whether it's corporate quality or plant level quality that can use this. Okay, any other questions? Let me look at the questions here. So there are questions about, how long does it take to set this up and design these types of workflows? So it's fairly fast to do it. I think you can, if you use a range between 6 to 10 weeks, you are actually in a fairly good, 90% of the projects get done by that. There are only times where you'd exceed is, if you have a very large number of workflows and in a fairly intricate underlying enterprise environment that you need to integrate with. But by and large, most of the time people think in terms of, hey, how do we want to do this? As opposed to kind of really the setup process is very, very straightforward. So a lot of it is, how do we want to do this? How do we improve what we are doing? Okay, that's where the time is spent. And if you are interested, we actually do have a test drive environment. A lot of our customers, pretty much all of them, actually either test drove the application itself, or they've conducted, because they had some very specific needs around how they want to do it, test it out. They've actually done a proof of concept. You can run this proof of concept within our test drive environment, or you can also deploy it within your private cloud, or if you have a manufacturing and other environment, you may want to do it in-house. You can also do it. We do support it. Our teams can be involved and show you how to do it, kind of help you design that and even test it out and maybe use it in a small setting within your organization. And once you feel comfortable with that, with what you have, and hey, it seems to work well, then you can decide, hey, how do we adopt it across the board? But by and large, the people that are involved in all of these different workflows, So as you can see, there are lots of activities here. They actually are very, very happy the way things come together, and they're proactively involved, and nothing gets lost. Okay. So with that, I think we are done with the questions here. If you have any questions now, after the session is over, we will be sending you a recording as well as the presentation files. With that, you will have our contact info. If you have any questions or would like to pursue any of these test drives or proof of concept, feel free to send us an email. We'd be more than happy to get started on that. Any questions, send us a note and we can either answer via email, or if you prefer, get on a one-on-one session and dig deeper into the details. Okay. With that, we are going to close the session. Thank you again for taking the time to join us in a fairly what we consider to be an exciting development or solution that we are working on from a quality management perspective. Thank you again. Have a great day.